All right, so this is a suggestion via Discord, guys. The name of the video is Neil deGrasse Tyson's Thoughts on Transgenderism. And so I'm guessing this video is being suggested after the last video we just encountered with him basically arguing with a couple of other scientists on the stage and kind of freaking out, even though playingly. Keep this in mind. Then, obviously in the comments, everyone was kind of like, I lost all respect for Neil deGrasse Tyson because of this. And so then obviously the suggestions for this video starts popping up because I have not seen it, right? But let's go ahead and check this out. Let's see where this takes us, guys.
It seems like the left is militating against the...
And really quickly, guys, so this is Ben Shapiro. I think I've encountered him one time, other than this, okay? Let's get it.
It seems like the left is militating against the advent of science. One of those.
So I'm guessing he's on the right.
Like the left is militating against the advent of science. One of those areas is the area of transgenderism. The argument that is typically made by gender theorists is that gender is entirely separate from sex. You've seen the argument made that it makes no difference on average if men are stronger than women are, and that if we were to allow transgender women to compete with non-transgender women, then this would somehow not disadvantage biological women. And this seems to me absolutely ascientific, that if we're actually going to have a discussion about gender and sex, that should be based in data, which suggests that mammals are in fact binary in terms of their sex, unless you have intersex birth defects typically, or genetic defects.
I'm happy to opine on this.
I'll call that fair. His statement here, fair.
This only matters because today we segregate nearly all sports by gender.
Okay. Yeah.
Otherwise, why do you even give a shit? what someone identifies with? We live in a free country,
okay,
and with consenting adults and people free expression of who and what they are.
Man, on adult level, I agree with you. I think it does matter what you teach your children.
That's what I'm saying. And so there's the matrix of what you are biologically, how you express yourself, who you choose as a sexual partner. If we actually live in a free country, as we tell ourselves, people's freedom to behave in any of those ways should not concern you at all.
This statement also is extremely fair, excessively logical, because, yeah, we live in a free country. They have the freedom to do exactly whatever, they decide. When it comes to the sport thing, though, it's always kind of rubbed me oddly, but I would definitely say that it most likely should be a third league, if anything, just so not to, disadvantage other people, specifically that are, trying to also compete.
Nor are they requiring that you behave that way. Okay?
Well,
this is for their own freedoms, because we live in a free country. Now, what is unresolved here is, what do you do with sports? It's unresolved. And I've followed that closely, and I don't see any meaningful solutions to come down off of that. We know that hormones manifest differently in different people, and there's the whole thing with steroids. Steroids are hormones, right? And we rallied against steroids in professional sports because it gives you an undue advantage.
Right.
So, I've tried to think of what the future of sports would be in the world of a gender spectrum. And it may be, you don't specify whether it's a male or female sport. You just take measurements of what your hormonal balances are. And so you compete based on your hormonal.
Yeah, that's kind of an issue here, because there are plenty of mainly runners, and specifically ones that are coming from out of the United States of America. There are people who are in fact intersex, and their hormonal balances are kind of out of whack at times, right? So if you do this, this may actually just completely remove intersex people from certain things. There was one pretty recently, a female runner. She was from Africa, and this happened to her, right? I know that. Also think about young girls and boys. That would also be extremely interesting to do, guys.
Just thought I had. I don't know. I don't know where it's going to land.
The WNBA won't be in business for very long if that's the case.
It would just be, you'd have to you'd have to find some way to compete people against each other if you still care that sports is an interesting activity.
I guess the area where it does come up in a non-sports area.
Yeah, tell me, 'cause I don't know.
So it would be, you talk in your book about the education of children and teaching children about science. And right
Yes.
now, children are being taught about the quote-unquote gender spectrum, which is not scientifically based. That is a theory-based idea.
No, wait,
meaning that-
hold on. People express themselves on a spectrum. So you learn that.
That's
I don't
that's a social
Yeah, sure.
point, not a scientific point.
It's
Right.
it's
Meaning we express ourselves
hold on.
based in different languages. Is that something you teach in science class, or is that something that you teach when you're teaching language?
so whether the fact that people want to express themselves on a spectrum, on a gender spectrum, whether that fact is something you want to put in a sociology class or in a science class, maybe that remains to be determined.
It probably shouldn't be in a science class.
But it is a
Sociology.
real fact about real society.
Well, of course, nobody's denying that people
Right.
identify how they want to identify.
So
the question is, what is the relationship of that to biology? Meaning that the argument is made that trans women are women, for example. And what that seems to mean is that trans women are identical to women. Now, if people want to say trans women are not biological women, obviously that is the case. But people don't seem to want to say that, although that is obviously scientifically true. Trans women are not biological women. Biological women are biological women.
But where are you going with this? What is your
Well, what do you have me watching? All right, you're trying to get me. Listen, guys. We're just coming off of getting remonetized from all the craziness. But all right, listen. I'm always here and honest. So when it comes to it, I think there just needs to be a third avenue. Right, just something else. It's completely fine. It doesn't really affect me negatively. There just needs to be something else. I can't wrap my head around it. It's kind of still fully yet, guys.
what are you trying to accomplish by asking yourself, is it science or is it not science? It's people in society.
But this is a perfect example of an area where suddenly it doesn't matter to say things that are just true. Like, why is it bad or wrong to point out?
I have another way to approach this.
Right.
I care what is objectively true in the world as a scientist.
Objectively true.
But let me not say even as a scientist. I just simply care what is objectively true. And science happens to be a pretty potent path to invoke, to find out what is true. And so if people express themselves on a gender spectrum, and that is an actual thing in an actual society,
Right.
if we have not fully explained that scientifically, that's an interesting frontier to study.
Okay. He's tiptoeing. He's absolutely tiptoeing. I understand it though, right? But it would be interesting to study if there are swaths of individuals who are now out of nowhere. Not saying that these people have not existed, obviously, but if they are now extremely visible, then yeah, I would say that's an interesting thing to study if you were a scientist. Does it really, can science completely back it up? I don't think so. Not yet, at least, right? But I'm sure eventually we'll fully grasp it, right? But all right.
If you want to say it's only sociological,
It leans to that,
then
I think.
it's the purview of the social sciences. I don't care who studies it. It's an interesting fact about society that's worth learning about. To fight someone and say it's not biological, it's just it's real and it's there.
Well,
because it's real because it manifests.
but
That's fair.
it is real because it manifests. But the question of how to classify manifestation is a scientific question. Meaning that, for example, there was a woman over at Brown University. She came out with a study that suggested that there was a phenomenon called rapid onset gender dysphoria, in which a member of a particular group would suffer from gender dysphoria, and this person's immediate peer group would suddenly have an onset of gender dysphoria. This paper was so controversial that Brown tried to pull it, and then was forced to reassign it later. You see this sort of
That's a
treatment of
different
science.
question.
It is. It is. Like, this is the thing here. This is also fair. I'm going to tell you why, at least like, from my personal experience, my lived experience, at least. So in my family, I have a aunt. No. I have an aunt who... I have no idea how to even word this. She's a lesbian, okay? And she and her daughter later on kind of... guys, my wording is, so I'm not super politically correct, guys. Apologies. Right? So my aunt is a lesbian. Her daughter is a lesbian. Her daughter is a lesbian. Okay? Her daughter's a lesbian. Her sister's a lesbian. It's like, I think, from what it's looking like at least, right? I think if the person is feeling a certain way, let's say, and another person in their peer group are now like kind of just out, they're talking about these things. Maybe they themselves have always been feeling that way. They just now have the strength, finally, at least, to be exactly who they are, guys. Maybe that's it. But whatever that paper was, I had never read it, never heard about it, but it sounds excessively logical, at least based off of my lived experience.
Was forced to reassign it later. You see this sort of
That's a
treatment of
different question. What you're asking now is, are there some topics that should not be studied scientifically?
Right.
No, and is there some taboo? Sam Harris speaks a lot about this.
Yes.
And I think the concern is, if you study some topic that's a hot button topic and you bring scientific methods and tools to it, we don't trust, I'm interpreting here, I think we as a society don't trust that people in charge in a free country won't try to legislate something that will constrict people's freedoms in the face of that information. I think that's correct. The fear.
Well, isn't that...
It's a fear.
I mean, and isn't that...
We don't trust our own ability to govern ourselves in the face of what could be some information relative to other kinds.
We can easily put that to our history, like in the United States of America, or just even in the Western world in general. Absolutely, science has been used to decimate populations. Let's say, all right, say that there are certain groups that are better than other groups because of some fictitious science created by Carl von Linnaeus and Johann Friedrich Blumenbach. Guys, let's just. Okay.
Isn't that a bit of a problem?
Yes.
I mean,
yeah, it's an issue.
Yeah, it's not. It means it's not a free society. It's not a society of free inquiry, which I think you need ultimately. Okay. But yeah.
My general take on all of this stuff, from climate change to gender dysphoria to all of these issues, is bring out the science and then let's hash it out. I think that the problem I'm seeing on a lot of sides is,
what is your motivation?
Why? Why does that matter?
It matters because if you have political power, you could end up creating legislation that subtracts freedoms from people who previously were enjoying the same freedoms as you. The history of that exercise
then make a better argument.
Doesn't end well.
Well, but the history of which exercise? Bring out all this.
Guys, this is an amazing conversation. Obviously, they are absolutely on two different sides, but I love the fact that there are people here, that there are two individuals sitting down right now, different angles, coming at things differently, but they're able to have an intelligent conversation without screaming at each other, listening, comprehending, and then just responding calmly.
The science and let's hash it out.
I'm saying if you bring out all the science and the politicians hash it out, the history of that exercise is a recipe for disaster if it involves discoveries that put people's freedom as defined in our Constitution at risk.
Well played. Now you're arguing for limitations on areas of particular study.
No, I'm arguing on...
Yes, actually. Oh God, this is crazy. All right, so Neil deGrasse Tyson is right. Historically, we absolutely have done that, right? But then Ben Shapiro's also right because he's in fact arguing for limitations because then we can't. Oh, this is great.
We need a way to shield. We need a way to protect people's freedoms in the face of whatever gets discovered scientifically.
Okay.
So
I'll give you.
I agree. I think that's what the Constitution is for, is to guard rights from.
But we're always fighting people who want rights are always fighting others who are saying they don't get the rights from the Constitution. This is a daily challenge on the progressive left. It is a daily challenge, right? Here's an example. I forgot how I ended up getting this phone call. It was some magazine that serves the gay community. And they want, I remember why, because they wanted my opinion on, they wanted my opinion about whether being gay was biological or mental.
Right, there's that new study that came out, this vast study.
Or psychological.
Right,
okay?
Right.
And I said, I don't care which it is.
I don't either. Personally, bro. I have family members who are like in that community, bro. Like I don't listen. I went to a lesbian wedding like last month, 2 months ago. I don't care. I don't care. All right. Great food. All right. Good music. I don't care. I don't even think about the fact that you are dating someone or you're married to someone who is like, who's just like you, bro. I don't care. Are you a decent human? All right. I like you then. That's it, bro. I don't know. I don't know, guys. I just don't care.
Find out what it is. Fine. But the answer to that question should have no consequence on legislations or laws. Because, for example, suppose it said it's purely biological, okay? Then you say, oh, that explains it. Suppose it says it's purely psychological. What are you going to do now? You say, well, now you're going to go to the reorientation camps or whatever those are called, where they realign you because they say it's psychological rather than biological.
Yeah, you're crazy.
All of a sudden, people start behaving in ways in society that want to constrict the freedom of expression of who and what people are. Okay. And that is a danger. So maybe there needs to be a line in the sand. Let science do what it does, but politicians keep us free. Yet there's so many politicians that are doing the opposite of that.
So why aren't you a libertarian? I mean, I'm a little Come over here. Just
okay.
Yeah, he does kind of sound like a libertarian.
The line is right here. Just join me over here.
All right. So I definitely wish I would have encountered a little bit more of Ben Shapiro's overall talking point, so I can understand kind of where he's coming from on this angle. Instead, we basically got multiple monologues from Neil deGrasse Tyson speaking, extremely logical here. I've really seen nothing wrong with his statements here. Logic, and then Ben Shapiro is also giving logic from a different standpoint here. They're both speaking honestly, clearly, intelligently. What was it that I was supposed to find in this video that I don't know, guys. They're both speaking logically. If you can get science to prove that one thing is, in fact, that people like each other that are the same because of something here, and then they try to cure it, or then they start to do all these other crazy things that have nothing to do with anything. Let these people live their life, bro. That's it. That's where I'm at mentally. And this is not someone. This is me not caring, literally. That's what I mean here. This is me literally just speaking to you how I would speak to my literal best friend, right? And be like, look, bro, I seriously don't care. It does not affect me. It doesn't stop me from sleeping at nighttime. It doesn't, bro. Be exactly who you are at every single time of the day, bro. That's it. And if they like you, they like you. If they don't like you, then go somewhere else, right? But all right, listen, you guys all have an absolutely amazing day. Enjoy your day thoroughly.